What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to CanesCast. I'm Phil, running the show alone today. Garrett will not be joining us. We've had a little bit of trouble trying to line up our shows the last couple of weeks. If you guys have noticed that we haven't been on the last couple of weeks, apologize for that. Hoping to get back up in full swing here as the season hits the most important point that we've had. So, been a lot going on, personal life, stuff like that, but we're back, ready to go and talk about some Canes football. So I'm excited to kind of go over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to be brief. Going to kick things off with Georgia Tech. Obviously, we didn't discuss that when that transpired, and then the bye week, college football rankings, and then more importantly, the win over Wake Forest and the look ahead at Syracuse, the biggest game of the season. So a lot to unpack. When I say keep it brief, I'm going to keep it brief as far as the past couple of weeks go, because we've been there, done that. I didn't get to say my 2 cents though, so obviously that Georgia Tech game was painful. It sucked. We hated it. A game we had no business losing. It was the quintessential trap game. Georgia Tech seems to always play us well when we're having a good season. Never seems to fail, but yeah, we didn't do ourselves any favors. Defensively, we were terrible. And offensively, you can't keep asking Cam Ward to put on his cape every game. So that was really, the takeaway. It's in the past, not going to bring it up. Because of that, we've seen a lot with the college football playoff rankings. We watched us dip after that, naturally, after that loss. And then go on a bye week and move back up the rankings, which was cool. And then a dominant win over Wake Forest, and boom, back up the rankings. We go again. So I'm going to touch on Wake Forest first, and then I'm going to go through the playoff stuff, and then obviously the look ahead at Syracuse. So first of all, the Wake Forest game was just a breath of fresh air. It didn't start that way, that's for sure. Defensively, it felt like that first drive. This is the same old thing that we've been upset with, that we've been struggling with, that we're just the thing that's going to hold the Canes back. It's this damn defense that it just is not playing to its potential. It's not playing to the talent level that it has. There's communication issues. It's one thing after the next, and it's just giving up big plays and a busted coverage on Wake Forest first drive, and they score, tie it up, and it's like, okay, are we going to get in a shootout with Wake Forest? Seriously? I mean, I don't want to hate too much on Wake Forest. They haven't had the best year, but like every college, they're going to have guys play in the pros, and they're motivated when they come to Miami, or every Power Four college. They have some guys that are going to play, right? And then we have the motivation factor of coming down to Miami and trying to ruin the season and everything else. So it just felt, okay, here we go again. But Miami's defense did what it hasn't done in a long time, or a lot of games here, and it was respond in dominant fashion. Yes, we ended up opening it up. We obviously dominated Florida State. We opened it up big time on Duke. And then, did it again against Wake Forest. The game was tighter, a lot longer than any of us wanted to be, but the defense only gave up one touchdown. They responded well after that. Something that this team needs to round back into form, to me, that it haunted them until they really just were able to unleash in the second or the fourth quarter, not really in the second half, was the momentum shift that we gave up with that kick return touchdown. When Mish Powell had the defensive play of the year with that pick six, who, he should have had another one. We could add another one. I believe it was Daryl Porter had another drop that all could have been pick sixes in this game. Mish Powell had his pick six, huge play of the year, and then we immediately give up the kick return touchdown. And it just felt like the quintessential complimentary football. We're there, we're doing it. The defense, long drive by Wake Forest to take the lead, tie the game up. Okay, we're gonna buck that trend. The defense stood up, stopped them when it mattered, went the length, scored, and then we immediately gave it back up. It just was, it was tough. It was tough to watch that happen, but the defense responded. I mean, overall in this game, that the only one touchdown goes against them. The special teams, obviously, it was at fault for the other touchdown. But in this game, Miami gave up less than 200 yards total, one touchdown. Obviously, there's the kick return, and offensively put up almost, I think it was 500 yards. I lost my mark here. I had it in front of me, but lost it. But just another dominant offensive performance. But, some things that felt a little clunky. Restrepo with the fumble, and, Cam Ward's interception, that the pitch, that little shovel pass that has worked for us all season, obviously didn't work there. Cam Ward has made that play, made crazy plays all year. I mean, we wouldn't have beaten Virginia Tech without a mad dash, flip the ball away kind of play like that. But it's one of those plays that he gets drilled for, he gets labeled as careless at times, that he needs to cut back in a game like Syracuse that we have that has the makings across the board of what should probably be a shootout between two very good offenses. All in all, though, I thought it was a great team performance. It was a great bounce back after the bye week, a little bit of rust at the beginning to be expected overall. But the team responded, and the defense did the most important thing, and that was to show up, be pissed off, and make their mark on the game. I mean, 4 or 5 sacks, just the yardage total that I've already mentioned, only giving up 1 score, bending but not breaking. It was just great all around to see, and it showed that the offense, despite the opponent, it was Wake Forest. I'm not gonna, they're not world beaters, but it was good to see the defense take over a game where maybe in the beginning of the game for a little while the offense was not clicking at its highest potential. And that's important because the team needs to know that that's there. It's been Cam Ward put on his cape or bust so far for this squad a lot of the year. So it's nice to see that, hey, he doesn't always have to put on his cape. The defense is capable. And we know the defense is capable because there's big time talent all across the defensive line and all across the defense. There's players that are noteworthy and, that make plays. Our defensive line, especially, if they start turning that heat up and getting after the passer, Bain and getting Alston back and obviously Barrow and guys like that, it's just been, there's too much talent to play as poorly as they have and as inconsistent as they have. That defensive line alone is capable of just wrecking games, taking games over. So in this game, though, a couple of top 10 PFF grades. I'm a big PFF guy. Garrett and I don't get into it a ton. I like PFF for what it's good, for what it's worth. It provides a great opportunity for people to get an idea of kind of how players played overall. Are they perfect? No, but I think it's a great guideline to really, to judge performances and kind of, overall it works itself out and it kind of shows, it's there for a reason. Teams use it, college, CFL, NFL, I mean, all across. So it's a tool. I love to go by it, and it just gives us that great frame of reference. So our top 10, Jalen Rivers, OJ Frederic, Francis Maui-Noah, Akeem Mesidor, Mark Fletcher, Daryl Porter, Kiko Maui-Noah, Mish Powell had to play the game, as we've already gone over. Elijah Arroyo was big too. Jordan Lyle had another very quietly huge game. And then number 1, as he's been many times this season, is Cam Ward. With these rankings, Mesidor jumps out. He set the edge very well, and all game, and that was huge because the running game has been our bugaboo. It killed us against Georgia Tech. For some reason, we just could not adjust to that. Wake Forest definitely took that page out of their book early and burned us with it on that first touchdown drive and the second one until Powell picked it off. It felt like they were kind of controlling the tempo and getting us out. And I think that's the MO on Miami now. That's the book, right? Dominate the ball, run the ball, long extended drives, keep Cam Ward on the bench. How does Miami respond? We score the most points in college this season. I mean, we're the highest scoring offense, number 1 offense in the ACC. They're going to score. This offense is going to score. So how do you keep that from happening? You keep him on the bench. And that's what teams are doing. They're attacking us, keeping him on the ground or keeping him on the bench, Cam Ward in the offense on the bench, and just running the air out of the ball. Less opportunities. And if you don't capitalize on all of them, which is impossible, you're not going to capitalize on every opportunity, that teams have a shot to keep pace if our defense can't get off the field. That's what burned us against Georgia Tech, and Wake Forest started it very well, tried to do the same thing in my mind, but we had some guys step up. Maui-Noah had 12 tackles in this game, a big performance from him. He's been much maligned for being out of position and stuff the last couple of games. Games that Miami's played kind of tight and he's had some mess up, some glaring mistakes, some missed tackles, things like that. But he stepped up big, 89 grade in the run and run defense grade, and a couple quarterback pressures as well. Mish Powell's the biggest one. He had a terrible game, graded out terribly against Georgia Tech. He rebounded huge by putting up where were we here? I lost my grade. 81.5 grade. So 83.5 coverage grade, best on the team. 2 receptions, gave up 2 receptions for 49 yards, but that's in 5 targets. Obviously had the huge pick 6. Great to see. Daryl Porter Jr. also had a great game. He's been much maligned in coverage as well. So it's great to see those guys bounce back. Now, go to the elephant in the room because it is Tuesday when I'm recording this. So the college football playoffs have dropped. I can look at everything, and one of the things that jumps out to me is the committee's love affair and commitment to keeping Alabama within striking distance, despite having 3 losses. They're sitting at number 13 right now, which means that they are just begging and pleading for an opportunity to put Alabama in the top 12. So hopefully, for those of us that are suffering from the roll tide fatigue of seeing Alabama in there, no matter what happens every single year, hopefully Auburn takes care of business, and that would put an end to that. But we're going to talk about the Canes, number 6 in the country overall, right? And they're in their the committee's rankings, which is to me a great sign. And then still number 3 when it comes to the playoff seeding. Number 6 excites me. It gives me a lot of hope, because it shows me as we inch closer and closer to the end result here, as the season gets closer to ending, that what the committee thinks, and they see us in the top half of the 12 teams that'll make it. Now, is this top 12 ultimately the top 12 that's going to make it? No. And if they picked it today, I mean, I guess this would be it, because this is what they chose. But I still think if it was to go into the actual playoff right now, maybe there'd be a little differentiation in here. But it's how they see it right now. So to have Miami in the top 6 is great. Rudy's knock strength of schedule, things like that. Obviously, the committee's looking at a lot of different things, and how you've controlled games, how you've won games. That win over Florida that Miami dominated early on looks better and better every week. Miami's beaten ranked teams, beating Louisville's the reason they're in the position they are, because Clemson lost. So having the tiebreaker over Clemson is big, and they're in good position. But more importantly, it leaves hope to me that even in the case, which we don't want to see, that Miami were to drop the game at Syracuse, they finish 10-2 on the season. It's a 10-win team. First time since 2017, right? We'd love to see that. First time we've had double-digit wins since 2017, and we were perfect at home. First time since 2017. So awesome to our Canes. I got to say that there too. But it gives me hope that the Canes can still get in. All these teams getting that third loss, potentially fourth loss coming up this weekend. Rivalry week is always crazy. It shows that if Miami were to lose to Syracuse, Clemson jumps them. Clemson's not playing an ACC game this weekend. They're done with their ACC schedule. We know they finished with 1 loss. But Clemson has to play South Carolina. Clemson loses to South Carolina, then that means Clemson will have, if Miami were to lose to Syracuse, if Clemson loses to South Carolina, they'll have 3 losses, excuse me. Then they'll go into the ACC championship game regardless if Miami were to lose, right? So then we have Clemson playing an SMU team. If SMU beats them, SMU is the automatic bid. Obviously, if Clemson does, they're the automatic bid. But I think if Clemson were to lose and they have 4 losses on the season, that would kick them out entirely. And then a 2-loss Miami team that they have sitting at 6th before the last week of the season shows me that, with Cam Ward, maybe that's as simple as that. Maybe the best quarterback, Heisman Trophy candidate, nominated for the Davey O'Brien Award and the Walter Camp Player of the Year Award, which is great. We know the Heisman's coming, but to be in a position like that, obviously we love the season that Cam's had this year. So another little side tangent there, but it's great to see our guy crushing it like that. But being nominated for those awards, maybe it is just a name thing, right? Maybe it is the committee wants Cam Ward in there. Committee wants Miami in there because it's a brand. But I think that if Clemson were to drop those and go to 4 losses, Miami still got a shot, and the ACC still has a shot to have 2 teams in there. I think if Miami were to win the ACC, obviously, or win against Syracuse, excuse me, obviously they're in the championship game. I think win or lose, Miami's in the playoff, whether they win and they're the bye or they get an at-large bid. I think that's, it's there for the taking. Does Miami get in if Clemson were to win the ACC? If they drop to Syracuse, Clemson wins the ACC. You have Clemson as the automatic team, SMU there, and then Miami as an at-large team. Maybe that happens. I think it's better off that Clemson loses this game to South Carolina and then loses overall. If Miami were to lose, then we got the better shot to get in there. But that remains to be seen. I just think the number 6 seed and the number 3 still in the playoff seeding, number 6 overall is it's a good vote of confidence in what the committee thinks of Miami. I think that we should be a little higher, but hey, I'll take the top 6 because that's the top half. And I like our shot to continue to grind it out and, find a way into the playoff. And then from there, it's anybody's game, right? You get in the playoff, and we have what many Hurricane fans feel, many people feel, is the best player in the country in Cam Ward. So despite the defense's deficiencies at times, hopefully that's starting to change. Hopefully they're finding their confidence. Cam Ward being there makes all the difference in the world. That being said, we're going to look ahead at this Syracuse game, which is now the biggest game of the season because it's the last game of the season, all the marbles. Let's get in the ACC championship game and let's win the damn thing finally, right? That's what we're all about. It's a battle of offenses. That's going to be the big thing. Miami's the number one offense in the country, number one offense in the conference, and Syracuse is number 7. So they have a very good offense. The big thing is defenses, right? How are these defenses going to respond? Now, statistically, Miami's got the 4th ranked defense in the country. I know many Hurricane fans, or not the country, the conference, excuse me. Many Hurricane fans are going to sit here and say, it's not the 4th best defense in the conference, because we've struggled a lot. And I think a lot of us most everyone would agree. A lot of those stats might come from, blowing things up against, Ball State and things like that, games we dominated, USF, things like that pad those rankings a little bit. But our defense is also not as bad as we get frustrated with. I think that it's just the talent and what they're capable of and the history of Miami defenses and defensive players that still loom large in Hurricane fans' heads. So that's what keeps us, chomping at the bit to see a better performance from the defense. But Miami's got a better defense on paper. Syracuse, their defense is ranked 13th out of 17th in the conference. So they're giving up quite a few yards a game, quite a few points. Syracuse is not a team that you would think is going to slow down Cam Ward, but the ultimate wild card to this game is Kyle McCord, Syracuse quarterback, who can be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he can be terrible. He can be terrible. He's the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde. We can see him torch teams, 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then we could see what we saw against Pitt, where he threw, 3 pick sixes and just handed the game to Pitt on a silver platter, kept them undefeated at the time, and really torpedoed Syracuse's ultimate hopes of being in contention for the conference at the end of the season. So that's going to be the big thing. Syracuse has a very talented receiving core. Miami's corners are going to be tested. Obviously, Miami's offense is going to pressure everybody in the country, no matter who they play. The game's an away game. It's after the holiday. It's a time of year where, after Thanksgiving, that Miami has broken our hearts before. It was 2017. This time, I mean, doesn't feel long ago, but it was long ago, that we had everything in front of us and we were at Pitt day after Thanksgiving or the Saturday after. I can't remember if that game was Friday or Saturday, but had everything to play for. Still made the ACC championship game that year, obviously, but had everything to play for, to stay perfect, and dropped it and came up just absolutely in an abysmal spot, a game we had no business playing so badly in, and we did. I'm hoping, fingers crossed as we all are, that game is behind us. We played that game against Georgia Tech. I said all season, Garrett did too, when we've talked about this, that I feel like this team is a team that can respond to adversity and has the ability to respond to adversity, and just hasn't had the shot yet outside of those close games. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a loss to wake up, and let's just hope that the Hurricanes did, because so far, so good. I know it was Wake Forest and it was at home, senior day, homecoming, the whole thing. It was great, right? It was if you're ever going to get up for a game, that's the game. But the defense responded and left their mark. And that's what we wanted to see. I would have been, if the defense gave up 24 points to Wake, I would have been pissed. They gave up 7. They were responsible for 7 and ultimately a net of 0 because our defense, scored off their offense. So you basically wiped those off, right? Our special teams gave up the score. That's how I would view it. The defense played great. Hopefully that continues and can propel us to a point where, hey, not only do we beat Syracuse, but we go into a game against SMU and dominate and do what we know, what we can do, play Hurricane football and go into the playoff with some momentum, whether that means, hopefully we beat SMU, whether it's a bye or not. There's ultimately, if we're dominating, you might not want the bye. Because you kind of cool off. It's the rest versus rust thing. But this team had the opportunity to respond from adversity. So far, so good. Syracuse is coming. Before I bid you guys all farewell for the week, my score prediction: Miami's got to show up. Got to show up and got to win a game when everything's on the line here. This is how you get in. You control your destiny, get into the ACC championship, and the rest takes care of itself, right? I think Miami stays close to their average. I say they put up 38 points against Syracuse. I'm going to say 38-24. Miami gets the W. I think we see both sides of Cal McCord, the Jekyll and Hyde, the great quarterback, and the guy who's going to make a couple questionable decisions. And Miami's defense, feeling confident, is going to be able to pounce on that and relay those into good field position. Hopefully, some points themselves. As always, guys, thanks for catching up with us. Thanks for watching CanesCast. Appreciate the support. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back next week, hopefully on our way to the ACC championship. As always, it's all about the U. Go Canes.